This meeting is now being recorded.
Well, good evening and welcome to our EDS Awareness Educational Series webinar. My name is John Furman. Before we introduce our speaker for this evening, I'd like to give an overview of our free program for those attending for the first time. So basically, who are we? What is our program? Some upcoming events. We're going to then be introducing Eric Palmer, who's our speaker for this evening, and then we'll go into a Q&A. So again, my name is John Furman. I manage the National EDS Awareness Program based in Cincinnati, Ohio. My daughter, Deanna, leads the Cleveland, Ohio EDS support group. She was diagnosed with EDS in 2008, the same year my wife passed away with breast cancer. I was the caregiver for my wife who struggled with undiagnosed EDS for over 30 years. We introduced our program at the 2012 EDNF conference in Cincinnati to help EDSers form independent local support groups and spread EDS awareness in their communities. We started over 40 groups to date. Each group is given their own free website with a link from the directory and map. In July, we'll be a sponsor again at the EDF conference for the third time in Houston, Texas. We received feedback that conferences provide valuable information and social opportunities, but many of us cannot afford physically or financially to attend in person. So we decided to bring the speakers to you through the free EDS Awareness Speaker Series. We meet every first and third Wednesday, typically at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All the programs are free. The meeting announcements and, whenever possible, the webinar recordings will be posted on our website at edsawareness.com for later replay. You can receive email announcements for future sessions by requesting the free report on our site. Those of you who missed the last program by Dr. Medikaitis on TMJ, that program is now posted on the video section of the home page on our site so that you can play that back. The slides are on the announcement page. So tonight's program is sponsored by EDS Awareness, our body support store, where you'll find over 250 products selected by EDSers for EDSers. The store is the only funding for this program, and it usually covers our monthly web fees. Just a general disclaimer, this presentation contains general information about EDS. Members of the EDS community voluntarily participate in the program. The information is not advice. If you're having medical problems at this time, please call 911 and get the service that you need. Always consult your doctor before making any changes to your treatment. Deanna? Well, some upcoming events. What did you do for EDS awareness during the month of May? Please let us know, and we'll add those to the posts that we have on our site about EDS awareness activities. Our next webinar
I'm sorry, can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
Next webinar is on July 2nd, and our presenter is Joel Lamore. He's a professor and registered pharmacist. His topic is called It's Not All in Our Head, Medical Psychiatry and Pain Management. And just a reminder also, in July, we will be a sponsor at the EDNF conference in Houston. So our speaker for tonight is Eric Palmer. He's a board-certified and licensed orthotist. Eric has worked in the orthotics and prosthetics field for over 20 years. He is the owner of Podorthic Technologies, and he also specializes in custom-made devices, which he evaluates, casts, and fabricates in his on-site lab. Eric strongly believes that each patient should be treated as an individual, and he is known for his ability to think outside the box. He has spoken at a recent EDS conference, and for his EDS patients, he works closely with doctors and physical therapists who are knowledgeable about the condition, and he enjoys assisting in the formulation and implementation of a treatment plan to address each patient's specific needs. I wanted to remind everyone that after the presentation, there will be an opportunity for Q&A. Add your questions at any time during the presentation by clicking the Q&A icon at the top of your screen. After typing in your question, click the orange button to submit. And at this time, I wanted to welcome Eric. We're looking forward to your presentation, and you will see your slides are loading on the screen. And I'm going to go ahead and turn over the microphone to you.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. First of all, as they said, my name is Eric Palmer, and I'm a certified and licensed orthotist and prosthetist here in Rhode Island, and I've been doing this for almost 25 years. And I will be the first one to say that my very first patient that came through my door to be treated was somebody that I had known since I was a child, and I really had no idea. Luckily, she was a school teacher and was more than happy to sit me down and educate me, and it's been a learning process ever since. So just moving on here, what is an orthotist? With brace people, obviously. But an orthotist is a healthcare professional who is specifically educated and trained to manage comprehensive orthotic patient care. This includes the patient assessment, formulation of a treatment plan, implementation of that treatment plan, follow-up, and practice management. Most importantly, we are part of a team that includes doctors, therapists, family members, and most importantly, you. I really cannot stress this part enough that this has to be a team approach. Most of my success stories come when I have a patient that's come to me after they've gone to the doctor. They have the proper diagnoses. They go and they see the therapist. The therapist realizes what can be dealt with through therapy, and we can come up with a game plan. I work very closely with a therapist. I believe he has already spoken in this series, Kevin Muldowney, and I work a lot with Dr. Pradeep Chopra, who is just brilliant. I really enjoy this. And working as a team makes it a lot easier. Everybody is on the same page. The family members, a lot of people don't think that the family members are as much of a team approach. You have to remember, you don't watch yourself walk. You just know that you hurt, or you don't know. You know that when you do certain activities, this hurts. The family members are the ones that are going to sit there and be able to tell me, you know, when they hold their arm this way or they move their leg that way, we notice they do better. Then it's up to me to create something or find something that helps you live the lifestyle that you want. As orthotists, we can help you live your daily life to its maximum potential. Unfortunately, there's no cure. We can't make anything that's going to make you be able to do everything that you could do before you were diagnosed with EDS, before everything started to go bad. But what we will do is you need to find an orthotist that will work with your doctor and therapist as well as listening to you. You're the most important part of this. We do our best to balance your needs with your daily living tasks and hobbies. As a brace, I can make a brace that would completely immobilize a joint. It's not going to be beneficial. I believe in minimum bracing, just something that will allow you to be able to use your joints and continue working in therapy and allow you to do your daily tasks of living. And a wish list that's written by you is extremely helpful. The wish list helps us tie in your wants and needs and to help prioritize what is more important to you. It also allows us to create something that fulfills as many of your needs, both medically and personally as possible. We have patients that come in and they say, I need to be able to walk my dog, and I live in a split-level house, and I need to be able to go up and down the stairs, and I have to take care of my elderly grandmother. These are all important factors, and then we can actually look at what it is that we're bracing and why, and we try to come up with something that will be least intrusive to your personal lifestyle while giving you maximum relief from the EDS. Obviously, we try to help out by addressing those areas of your body that are compromised by the EDS. When you go and see a therapist and they can put a joint back into place, and it's great until you go to sit in the car and you have a pelvic upslip or your tib and fibula, they rotate around. Obviously, you have to be able to drive your car or get into a car or at least move after that. That's when I would get involved, and I would try to create something that would allow you to do those daily activities. We can custom design and build almost anything or fit anything that would be prefabricated, that would help stabilize any part of your body, basically from the top of your head to the tip of your toes, almost anything in between. Some of these areas, we have some very complicated EDS patients where cervical collars, which I will speak a little bit about later on in the presentation, you have to be careful. We fix one area, we can affect another area. All of this is part of the big picture. And it's really something that needs to be, it takes a lot of time to come up with a game plan as to how we're going to deal with this. That's why the team approach is so important. I can call the doctor and say, I would like to do this. The doctor would say, that may not be a great idea. We also have a problem over here. It's nice to know that we're all on the same page. For the foot and ankle, we can do anything for the foot and ankle, the knees, hips and pelvis, spinal, the shoulders, wrists, hands, right down to the silver ring splints I'm sure that most of you are very familiar with, and as well as the neck. For the foot and ankle, custom foot orthotics or arch supports, and I believe somebody will probably have a question about that. These are some generic pictures. Once again, everything would be crafted specifically to your needs. I have made some foot orthotics that had to fit into super depth shoes to be able to give a relief for a dropped metatarsal head and still allow with the toes have subluxed and they end up with a claw toe to give the room so that way you don't rub a blister on the top of your toes because of the deformity. We can usually accommodate that. Unfortunately, you lose a little bit in the style department when it comes to the shoes. But we can possibly talk about that a little bit later. Off-the-shelf ankle braces. This is a simple one by Don Joy. It's called the Velocity. It gives a little bit of medial and lateral support. And if you just have a little bit of instability, that may be the quickest and easiest way to go. I keep a couple of sizes of these in my office. I use these a lot for diagnostic reasons. I'll put them on somebody They can tell me right away, better, worse. If there's something wrong, I can find out what is wrong with the brace, where it hurts, if I can modify that brace, or I can use that information for when I fabricate a custom-made brace, I don't make the same mistake. And a custom ankle-foot orthosis, or an AFO, is almost like the off-the-shelf ankle brace. It's just a little bit taller. They can be made solid ankle or with hinges, anterior pieces to help control rotation of the tibia and the fibula. It's pretty much what your imagination would allow you to go back to. I had a little skip here, if you excuse me. That's a picture of a hinged, custom-made AFO. I apologize. I've been having computer problems all day. We keep on having little power surges that make my screen jump. For the knees, we can do a custom knee ankle foot orthosis. I use these very, very rarely, only if I have to control multiple joints into multiple planes. The part about this type of brace that makes me a little bit nervous is it puts a lot of strain on the lower back and through the hips. That always seems to be a area of concern. I usually, if I use a KAFO, I put in an ankle joint, and I try to use a free motion knee joint, and that way we can just use them to control hyperextension at the knee. A lot of times, just by doing that, we can help resolve a lot of issues with external rotation of the knee, internal rotation of the foot. Off-the-shelf knee braces can be something as simple as neoprene, which I find does not generally work very well, or they have off-the-shelf knee braces that are great derotation braces. If you do not have a problem with your ankle, a lot of times we can use an off-the-shelf brace to help prevent the hyperextension for all the same reasons that I've just explained. It will help prevent the rotation of the patella and internal rotation of the foot. Usually where one joint goes, another joint will follow. The hips and pelvis, range of motion hip orthosis. I really try to avoid putting these on the big, bulky items. But if you have something that has a chronic hip dislocation, when you get to a certain point of range of motion, as far as flexion or lifting the leg away from the midline, abduction, then you would use a brace like this. I have used them. They do work very well. It's just a matter of that's a last-ditch effort right there. And a lot of folks are very familiar with the SI belt, the sacroiliac belt. They come in many different widths, 6 inches wide, 8 inches wide. Some of them are elastic. I prefer the ones that are non-elastic. They close with Velcro, and then they have a force magnifying system. If you notice on the range of motion hip orthosis, I don't know if you folks can see this, but these two little straps right here, when you pull on that with 1 pound of pressure, it multiplies it by a factor of 4. That way you don't have to put as much corrective force in. It's a lot easier on the wrists, elbows, and thumbs. But once again, there's so many different types. I have used many different types, all with great success. The different widths are really dependent on body shape, and we can trial a lot of those. The custom thoracic lumbosacral orthosis, a TLSO. This is for gross movement. If you have somebody that has a lot of problems where they move a little bit, they rotate a little bit, and a strong reminder is not enough, this will help prevent that gross movement. It helps prevent subluxations, the ribs from popping out. They're a little bit, not the most comfortable, especially in the summertime. I've actually had to make these for folks to wear at night with a special addition that came up to the cranium to help hold the head in place. Unfortunately, I do not have any pictures of that. Here's a off-the-shelf lumbosacral orthosis. This one also has that force multiplier. Once again, I don't know if you can see the cursor, but these two little lines right here. This works great if you have an instability in the lower lumbar region. The white portion of this particular brace can be modified, can be cut down to a smaller shape, it can be heated and moved. Sometimes I've actually used these. I just put them on the patient a little bit lower, and then I will actually lower the distal portion of the back and almost use it as a combination SI belt lumbosacral orthosis. For the shoulder, off-the-shelf shoulder orthosis, the Bauer Find Omotrain. This is a wonderful brace. They work great. The biggest problem that I've had with some of my patients is that in order to fit this correctly, it has to be very snug. You almost have to drag it up the arm, and it's kind of awkward. And sometimes it just doesn't hold the arm up in place. A lot of times, the patients that I see, they present with their shoulders, both of them subluxing anteriorly instead of just purely distally. Very difficult to wear one of these braces bilaterally, one on either side. What I do is I have been quite successful with using a clavicle splint, one that is very wide in the straps, and when it goes on the patient, actually fits extremely wide out on the shoulders. It helps rotate the shoulders back and hold them in. And I use I've used one from a company called Auger that actually has an interior adjustment, so you can adjust everything from the front without having to put yourself into a contorted position, and you can adjust the left and the right side individually. Abduction pillows, usually used post-surgically. We use a lot of these for a lot of non-EDS patients. I've had to use it a couple times with the EDS patients. Usually what happens is if you're going to have a surgery, you will be fit to it's a sling and a swath that has a pillow that just holds your arm in a certain position. What happens is you'll wake up in the recovery room wearing this. The doctor sets that to their desired specifications. The elbows, wrists, and hands. This is really starting to become complicated. These joints, there's a lot of little bones, a lot of little joints, not a lot of space to work with. So we have a custom elbow, wrist, hand orthosis. Very rarely would I end up using something like this in EDS. That would be if you had multiple joints coming out with rotation chronically, just that really had to be held in place. simple off-the-shelf wrist hand orthosis. Now, this would be something that you would end up using if you were sleeping. A lot of times, I know when I sleep, I wake up several times at night. My hands have gone numb because I curl them into a fist and tuck them up underneath my chin. This prevents that, and a lot of them are adjustable, either with a heat gun or with they have an aluminum frame that can be bent by hand, so a therapist or the orthotist can just shape those up to a comfortable position that will help hold you in place all night long. That way you don't wake up being out of position, and you can start your day much better. And just a plain old off-the-shelf wrist orthosis or a carpal tunnel splint. A lot of times you'll sleep with one of these at night if the wrist and hand are bad enough. You may go to some sort of off-the-shelf orthosis, and a lot of times you will use this as a tool. You're doing work around the house, or you're doing yard work, or whatever may be going on. You say, I know that my wrist is really going to bother me. You can put this on, and it'll help you do that job a little bit better. And that's the case with a lot of these. You would end up possibly using one brace at one time of the day, another brace during another activity. Off-the-shelf cervical thoracic orthosis, or CTO. These are almost always used post-surgical or in extreme cases of high cervical instability, C1, C2, C3 area. The biggest problem that I have encountered with EDS is due to the hypermobility. You can see the area around the chest, and that wraps around the rib cage right through here, that it becomes, it puts a lot of pressure in a lot of areas that may be compromised. So we have to modify those. That's the beautiful thing about a lot of the off-of-the-shelf stuff. We can modify the padding that you see that goes around. We can build it up and remove areas where we do not want contact. We can build it up on areas to bridge it. And whenever I fit something like this, I try to leave myself an out. So if I fit you with a cervical orthosis like this, a CTO, I want to make sure that, first of all, it's not going to cause any further problems. And secondly, as you get better, you don't need this entire thoracic area. I want you to be able to use just the cervical brace on its own. That way you don't have to keep on getting doctor's orders. We don't have to keep on billing the insurance company. And this is an Aspen collar. Aspen also makes a version of the CTO. And as I said before, I would love to be able to, if I have to fit a CTO, I want to be able to make it so I can remove it. Just turn it from a big piece like this right down to this more conventional neck brace. How does the process work? Either your doctor or your therapist will recommend bracing to help strengthen the area of your body in question. We have a lot of folks that come in here, they've been to a meeting, and they obviously already know that they have EDS, and they try to bypass the doctor. That's great. I'll sit down and I'll spend the time with you and I'll speak with you. I cannot do anything. I cannot take any measurements, casts. I cannot order anything until I have a doctor's order. That's just unfortunately the way it has to be. So after your doctor, your therapist goes ahead and tells you that you need some bracing, you'd call and make an appointment with the orthotist. We have a lot of people that just walk in. They think they're going to browse the braces. There's literally thousands. I believe John had mentioned that in his store alone, he has over or close to 250 different types of braces that are recommended by other EDSers. There's braces that really aren't even in the United States, or they've just been introduced to the United States yet. So a lot of times I have to send people away after I see them to do a little bit of research so I can find the appropriate device. So what we would do is we would sit down and talk with you to find out what your current activity level is and what you're hoping to achieve. If you came in and say, I want to be able to wear high heels again, or if the gentleman comes in and says, I want to go back to my job as a logger, I have to be the bearer of bad news and say that may not be possible right away. But if it's an activity level that you currently have that you're trying to maintain, that could very easily be attainable. If you are coming in and saying, over the past year or two, I haven't been able to walk as far, I haven't been able to go up and down the basement stairs as much because of my knees, I can't carry in the groceries, whatever it may be, this will all be part of the wish list. We can sit there and start prioritizing and figuring out, you may have 10 things on your list. I could say I can make a device that will possibly give you 8 of those, but if one of those 2 that are going to be left off of that device is the most important thing that you need from the brace, that's where, I don't want to say negotiation, but we have to spend the time and open up the communications to speak about this. Now, if you have your prescription in the paperwork, you will then be measured for your device. This could be as simple as taking a few measurements with a tape measure, or for a custom device, a plaster cast would be required to be made for the area. The plaster casts, they can be messy. They are time consuming. So you have to dress appropriately. A lot of the devices, insurance companies will pay for at least a portion of them. I cannot stress enough, it's in your own best interest and it's really your responsibility. If you went to the website or you called the insurance company that you have and asked them what they pay for DME, durable medical equipment, or custom-made bracing, you have to be careful. They may think that you're talking about braces for your teeth. We've gotten a lot of that. If you have a question, think, oh, well, we're not sure, you can call up and ask the orthotist for any codes or information that will make it easier to find this out. It's beneficial to you. It's beneficial to us. Everything that we bill through the insurance company goes by procedure codes, and ours are mostly L codes and some A codes. So if you needed a AFO, a basic AFO custom made is L1960. They can type that in and say, yes, we pay for that, or no, we don't. So don't be afraid to ask these questions. The design of the device. First, we have to follow the doctor's orders, but we always include the input from the therapist and you. And I always put you capitalized. You have to wear this. The doctor says, prevent the knee to go into hyperextension. The therapist says, I can take care of everything else if you just stop that knee from going into hyperextension. That's fine. The only thing I have to worry about is hyperextension. If you come in and say, I want a brace that nobody's going to notice, I will try to find the least noticeable brace there is. If you say, I'm going to own this and I want a brace that has leopard print on it. Well, we have braces that can be custom airbrushed. So it's really about what it is that you need. We try to figure out if something can be ordered that has been prefabricated, or if we have to, we can make a custom device. Prefabricated versus custom is a very, depends on which orthotist you speak to. Because I happen to own my own company, if I order something that's prefabricated and it doesn't work, or if I'm not sure if it's going to work, I make sure that I will order something from a company that has a liberal return policy. They'll have a trial period that somebody can try a brace for, as far as knee braces. That way, if it doesn't work, we haven't used up your benefits for the insurance. We can find out why it didn't work and either find another device, or then we can go to a custom device. But we need to be able to accurately come up with a design that's going to work. And with many of my EDS patients, I try to make or fit a device that has flexibility to be modified as the condition changes. A lot of times you'll have somebody, a newly diagnosed EDS patient. I've had several in the past couple of weeks that have come in with an injury. The EDS was only diagnosed after a sports-related injury. Their legs were fairly muscular and had some good size to them, and now rapidly that leg is starting to atrophy. If I made a custom-made brace that was made out of carbon fiber, once it's made, I cannot alter the size of that. But if it's made out of aluminum or polypropylene, I can mold or rebend those braces and to change for different volume changes, whether they be up or down. So that is a very important factor of the design of the device. And you really can ask anything. If you're going to a new orthotist and you have braces that you have bought at a drugstore, borrowed, or have had them made elsewhere and they do not work, bring them to your appointment. I love it when somebody comes through my office doors with shopping bags full of braces. We sit down and we spend an hour, and I use sticky notes and I write down what they don't like about each brace. It makes my job a lot easier. I just won't make those mistakes again. As I said, it gives us a much clearer idea of what does not or no longer works for you and helps prevent us and your doctor from repeating past designs. There's nothing worse when I walk into a room with what I think is something beautiful brace that I've crafted. The person says, "Oh yes, I've had that before. You know, it just didn't work." That's disheartening. Before we make it, if you don't like what we have said, ask them why we're doing it. Ask your orthotist. And if you don't like the reason why we're getting it, don't be afraid to go get a second opinion. It's your life, and you have to wear these devices. If I'm proposing something big device that you think is way overkill, by all means, you can go back to your doctor, you can go back to your therapist, you can go to another orthotist and go through the process with them. A lot of times, I know I do not charge for any office visits. If somebody comes in and they have a question, I allow an hour for them, and they can ask any questions that they would like. After your devices are made, what happens? We have you come back for an appointment. We make sure that the fit of the device is correct and that it really is as comfortable as can be. A lot of times we have to make some adjustments. As somebody is walking, when we measure a device, you're in a static position. When you're walking or moving or breathing, that's dynamic. sometimes you have to add padding, subtract padding, and some fine-tuning is required. We'll then go over the wear and care instructions and make sure that you understand how to properly use your device. A lot of people get mad at me when we get everything all nice and comfortable just right, and I take the brace off and hand it back to them, and I say, "Now you put it on." They're not really sure why we've done that. I need to know, and you need to know that you can put the brace on the way that I have. I can't come to your house every day and put the braces on. And if there is a problem with the way that you put the brace could be perfect, but if you cannot put it on correctly, it's not going to work. If I have to move a strap, extend a strap, put a loop in there so you can grab it with your thumb, sew one side of device together to make it a little bit easier for you to put on so you don't have two separate pieces, that's something that has to be done, and we can do it quite easily. When you get home, you should contact the rest of your team. That means call your doctors and therapists and make sure that they know that you have the device. And remember to bring it with you when the next time you go to see them. I've had the therapist call me and say, "When is Mrs. Smith going to be getting her brace?" And I would say, "She's had it for 3 months." No, that's funny. She hasn't brought it to any of the appointments. I can't fix what I don't know about. If the therapist ordered the brace for you to be able to do the exercises to help regain the strength or to help prevent you from losing any more strength, the device really needs to be brought in. And if you don't like it, you need to tell somebody, and we can do our best to rectify that situation. If anybody has any questions, I'm on the phone constantly with Dr. Chopra and Kevin, sometimes a couple times a day. We can only fix what we know about, as I said. And as the team, we'll come up with an idea, and we will solve it. This is something I cannot stress enough. Just because you are wearing a brace, it does not make you indestructible. I've had some people do some pretty crazy things because they didn't think that they were going to be able to re-injure that ankle. Or I put a shoulder brace on them and it felt pretty good, and they ended up going to the Home Depot and buying a couple gallons of paint, and they tried to carry it to their car, one in either hand, and they really caused a major setback to themselves. You have to use your head. And just some of my contact information. I believe now is the time that we're going to open this up to some questions.
Right. And thank you, Eric. Very straightforward, very informative information about braces. So we really appreciate the detail that you went into as far as describing that.
And the detail, when I say that there's thousands of braces, I do ring splints. When I created this PowerPoint, I wasn't very comfortable doing the ring splints, so I did not incorporate that. But there is always new technology out, so really you have to advocate for yourself. Look stuff up. Call up your orthotist and say, "Hey, I found this brace, or I found this device, but I can only find that it's in England. Do they have anything like this here in the U.S.?" It should be our job to do what we have to do for you. So from here, John, do I just click on the Q&A portion of there?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
And if you could read the questions, the other people can't see them, so and just give the first name of the individual who's providing the question. So.
All right. A lot of these I do not see any names on.
Okay.
Yep, I see it.
All right.
Cammy writes, "My fingers are very hypermobile, but don't usually hurt. I'm 21. I don't know how far my EDS will progress, so I'm wondering if I should get finger splints as a preventative measure. Is that a good option? The finger splints as a prophylactic you're not going to do yourself a disservice. This is something that you have to check with your doctor. If you are currently working with a therapist, it should help preserve the fingers over a longer period of time. And just as you say, you don't know how far your EDS will progress. Nobody really does. But the silver ring splints, you can go right to their website, and you can actually call them and ask these questions to the folks there at Silver Ring Splint. That was founded by an occupational therapist with rheumatoid arthritis. She is very knowledgeable, and they go to all the meetings, and they really know their stuff. So I don't have any problem at all saying give them a call and you're going to get a much better answer. But you're not going to undo anything or cause any more problems if you have proper fitting and proper made ring splints made. The next question is, my right shoulder is barely connected. What type of brace do I need? And Steve wrote that. That's a tough one. When you say barely connected, without seeing you, I don't know if it's coming straight down, if it's anterior. This is something that a doctor needs to evaluate first and foremost. He may look at you and decide that you're beyond bracing. You could use the Elmo train if you're able to get it on. You could also use what they call a give more sling, which uses your arm as a counterweight to help drive the humerus up into the glenohumeral joint. You lose the use of that hand though, because you actually will have a big roll that fits around that you have to wrap your thumb and fingers around. So that's a very difficult one. You could use a hemi splint that would have a cradle that would go up over the shoulder, and it has a cuff that would wrap around the arm, and it has 3 adjustable straps that would be used to help pull that up and into place. But without seeing you, that's a very difficult question to answer. But I would really recommend finding a doctor, therapy team, and that's where you're going to get your most benefit. The next one is from Lynn. I've had 2 pairs of custom orthotics made by a Boston hospital, and both bruised my feet. The hospital claims they are fitted correctly. I have EDS and the common collapsible arch that goes with it. I saw a foot and sneaker expert, a PhD, who said I should try no orthotics and get the sneakers with the softest rubber bottoms. He felt no shoe could stabilize my hypermobile feet, so I might as well get the most comfortable shoes. What do you think? It could go both ways. Without seeing the orthotics, I believe that you had written in a question a little bit earlier saying that you have developed painful hammer toes with bumps on the joints and pain in the tips of the toes where they've curled. What I have ended up doing with feet like this in the past is make an orthotic that's fairly thick, almost 3/8 of an inch thick. And I use from the ball of the foot to the heel as the weight-bearing portion. And then I create for lack of a better term, a void for those toes that want to reach down and claw and kind of grab at the shoe. Like you are trying to hold on, prevent yourself from falling forward, and that way, that's the only way. The only problem with that is you end up wearing a an extra depth diabetic style shoe. Atrex makes some good ones. They're not the prettiest ones, but they are effective. Another shoe that may help is something that has a built-in rocker bottom, not like a shape-up, a rocker bottom that just has a break right at the ball of the foot, so that way you're not trying to drive your toes into the ground as you are walking forward. And as far as soft rubber bottoms, you're already hypermobile. The easiest way to answer that is if you live near a beach or someplace that has sand, if you can walk through loose sand and it feels comfortable, then soft would be very good. If you are at a beach and you walk down by where the water, where the sand is more compacted, that and it's easier to walk because it's firmer, that's your answer. A firmer shoe may be better than a softer shoe. But luckily, I live here in the Ocean State, and almost anybody that comes to my office can tell me where it's easier and more comfortable for them to walk. Sometimes it's easier in the soft stuff. Sometimes it's a lot less painful on the hard stuff. Okay, Catherine wrote, does wearing a brace on the knee or wrist create weak muscles around that joint? Does it keep the muscles supported so that they can work properly? There's two answers to that. If you are wearing a brace on your knee that does not allow the knee to bend because it locks the leg into full extension, then your muscles will atrophy. And the same with the wrist. If you leave, there's certain braces out there where you can have the brace made, or you can make the braces where they have hinges. They allow the joint to do what the joint was intended. It just keeps it corralled in a certain manner so that way it doesn't get out of shape. It allows the mobility that the joint was intended to have without it crossing into the realm of hypermobility. So the answer to that is yes, it can. When I design my braces, I always try to, even if I have to immobilize something, I try to make it that has a joint that can be locked or unlocked. You may have a time with a knee brace where you just have to lock the leg up. It's just worn out for the day. And there may be other times when you are exercising or at therapy and you can unlock it and exercise it in a controlled fashion, and you can use the muscles the way that they are properly supposed to be used. So, Lindsay writes, I have problems with my shoulders subluxating. I was giving a device made by Coflex. It's very bulky and it cuts off circulation under my arms. Do you have any other recommendation for orthotics to prevent bilateral shoulder subluxations? Thank you. It sounds like you're using a clavicle splint. As I said, you may want to look up a company, Ossur, O-S-S-U-R, and it's an anterior closure clavicle splint. I'm very familiar with the Coflex products, and what's probably happening is they have a very padded auxiliary strap, or the strap that goes underneath your arms, and a lot of times that can cause a bit of circulation issues, especially when you try to put your arms down underneath your, down to your side. You're probably pretty petite. That's where we usually have those problems. So I hope that helps. I know that many are familiar with the SI belt, but it is new to me. Can you describe it a little bit? And that was written by Donna. Sacroiliac belt is just a compression device because the SI joint really has no muscles that hold itself together. It's kind of a plug fit, so to speak. As everything starts to shift, you can get a pelvic upslip, or your SI comes out of place. You can also break the SI joint during, or fracture it during childbirth. What an SI belt does is it just basically takes your hips. So if you reach down, find where your waist is, and then reach down almost the side of your thighs, you're going to feel two bumps, one on either side. Right in that area, about an inch above that, is where you would wear an SI belt. And what it does is it just kind of takes that joint that wants to slide around a little bit, and it puts a circumferential pressure on it. It just holds it in. If I'm not sure if a SI belt will work, I end up taking somebody, I'll use a 6-inch wide ace bandage, and I pull all the stretch out of it. So you're gonna need somebody to help you, and I wrap it up. That way they can go ahead, walk around, sit, and make sure it's going to work before we go ahead and order something. But that's what the SI belt does. Next question says, physicians often discourage wearing braces because they feel we'll become too dependent on them and become too weak. Yeah, if my connective tissue is too weak and allows my knees to sublux and my ankles to roll, then a brace can help to keep them in place. Otherwise, it is easy to move something the wrong way and or something slips out and causes what doctors believe is micro tears. Then I'm in pain as that heals. It would seem to make more sense to just prevent that from happening. Yet, I'm met with resistance from doctors about wearing a brace or braces. Yet, they seem to have no problem with my wearing custom foot orthotics, which is basically doing for my feet what the knees or ankle braces would be doing for those body parts. Your thoughts on this? And that was written by Donna. Well, I agree. You have to ask yourself a couple of questions. The doctors that are meeting you with this little bit of resistance on bracing are probably orthopedic doctors. Orthopedic doctors are great. What I have found, though, is that an orthopedic doctor a lot of times will say, if I fixed it, you don't need a brace. And sometimes that's not always the case. Do they understand EDS? Do they understand exactly what's going on? Or do they just say, oh, you really don't have EDS, you have weak ankles or a weak knee? That is something that you may have to look around a little bit and either have to educate them a little bit more with the EDS, or maybe even find a doctor that specializes in EDS. As far as the foot orthotics go, depending on how the foot orthotic is made, yes, it does reduce some of the motion, but the muscles that are in your feet are so small, and the feet are the foundation of the body. So if you really had to go ahead and reduce motion in one area, I would have the least amount of problem in almost completely immobilizing a foot with a fairly rigid orthotic, only because we can do a lot to control ankle motion and give you a good foundation for your knees, hips, and back. If your ankles are rolling out of control, then you're asking a knee brace to do an awful lot of work. So if you start from the bottom, work your way up, a good foot orthotic may allow you to wear less of an ankle brace or less of a knee brace. The next question is by Catherine. Do you design braces to be worn on a knee in a pool for water walking or swimming? That's a good question. I've never had to do that. I have made a lot of prosthetics that have been used, and the technology would be exactly the same. A lot of the braces that we make are out of aircraft-grade aluminum for the knee brace, or carbon fiber, which is what America's Cup yachts are made out of, so they can be used in water. They're used by professional water skiers and surfers. So it really, once again, it depends on what's needed and why. The other thing, if you just need a little bit of a knee control, you could also do something with neoprene. The only problem with the neoprene, first of all, they make wetsuits out of that. No problem at all in the water. Is it just may make that one leg a little bit more buoyant than the other. So that's the only problem that I've ever had, especially with the prosthetics. If you try to swim underwater or walk, you have a tendency of having that one leg trying to float to the surface. Okay. Deanna writes, question from Emma. Do you work with dynamic orthotics and lycra-type bodysuits for proprioception and core stability in EDS? If not, what do you use instead for core and back support? I have classic EDS with hypotonia, a floppy trunk, and hypermobile pelvis, and I can't sit up properly anymore. But my local orthotists aren't sure what would help. Well, there is a company in England called DM, D as in dog, M as in Mary, Orthotics Limited. And they make dynamic bodysuits. And if you go to their website, they will actually tell you, they specifically mention EDS and hypermobility of the joints. If you are truly having a floppy trunk and a hypermobile pelvis, you may have to use another brace in conjunction with this, and there's a lot. I'm really kind of surprised that the orthotists are having some sort of problem. I know there's a company called Spinal, once again another European company, where they the brace is made for osteoporosis. But what it does is it's used in such a manner that it tries to retrain the body to sit up straighter and help prevent kyphotic or floppy trunks. So there are a lot of different types of braces out there. But yes, I have not had the opportunity yet to work with the dynamic orthotics that are made from Lycra. There are places here in the U.S. that make them. It's something I'm very interested in doing myself. The only question is I'd be kind of shocked if the insurance paid for them. But if you have any more questions, like I said, DM Orthotics Limited is the name of the company, and they're in England. Question from Lynn. My question is about orthotics for feet. The past few years, my forefoot area has spread tremendously. It also seems that my foot length and a half to a whole size. My toes started to curl under, or toe clawing, I was told, as if to grip the soles of my shoes, and I developed painful hammer toes with bumps on the joints and pain in the tip of my toes, as well as under the joints where the toes connect to the forefoot. I have been unable to walk for more than about half a mile without pain and numbness. I've tried dozens of pairs of sneakers and had 2 new pairs of custom orthotics made with no success. I am frustrated because the orthotists, podiatrists, and orthopedic surgeons I've seen don't seem to understand the problem, and they cannot come up with a solution. I was wondering if tonight, if I had any experience with such foot changes and could advise on the most likely solution, given the EDS involvement. Well, whenever you're making an orthotic for the foot, there's 2 different types. There's a corrective orthotic, which puts a purposeful force on the foot to either put it into pronation or supination, or there's an accommodative device, which just takes the foot as it is and supports it in that shape. Just from what I'm reading here, I would allow that, I would leave the foot as it is, try not to straighten out the toes, but as I was explaining before, I would try to find a shoe that had enough room in it, depth more importantly than the width. That would make an orthotic that would just allow those toes to be able to do what they're going to do. you can't really do a whole lot about them to straighten them out. It becomes too complicated. You have way too much in the shoe at that point. So that would be the way to go about that. It can be done. You just have to find somebody that can make a good accommodative device. Instead of seeing a podiatrist, okay, or an orthotist, I hate to say this, you may want to go and see a podorthist. I have nothing against the podorthists. I'm just kind of disappointed in the orthotists not knowing this. But a podorthist is somebody that specializes essentially from the ankle down. They deal with a lot of diabetics, and you should be treated like somebody that has severe diabetes almost, where that soft, completely accommodative device that gives full range to your toes to allow them to do what they're going to do. The shoes will not be pretty, but that would probably be your best answer for that.
Eric, just
yes.
A question that came up in the chat. Could you spell that, the name of that
a podorthist?
Service? Yes.
PEDORTHIST.
Excellent. Thank you. Donna counted on that too.
Yep. The abbreviation for that is CPED. CPED, Certified Podorthist.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. Okay. Donna wrote, you mentioned that we first need a script from our doctor. Is it necessary for me to go to an orthopedic doctor who will tell you specifically what kind of brace I would need, or can I go to my family doctor who will write something general like knee brace? Well, any prescription will do. But if you're going to go to your general doctor, because we need a prescription from a doctor, before I give you a knee brace, I would really like to be able to speak with the therapist and allow the therapist to kind of fill in the bridge between myself and the doctor. That way, there's hundreds and hundreds of different types of knee braces. So it's something that we can take prescriptions from podiatrists for the foot and ankle, any type of MD or DO. But if they're going to write something general as a knee brace, that's fine. As long as you have a therapist involved that's willing to work with your orthotist, then they can come up with a game plan. If we need further clarification on that, we can always go back to the doctor and say, Doctor, could you please write a prescription that says Donjoy custom-made hinged derotation brace with a patella control strap. And I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with that doctor and explain my reasoning for that, and we never have a problem getting that from the doctors. But either doctor will work. Just the therapist, the team approach is very important. Next question is your business willing to work with customers who want to pay out of pocket for bracing that is ordered directly through Amazon or eBay? They find that is often less expensive than paying our insurance copay and going through one of the companies that have a contract with the insurance than going through one of the companies that have a contract with the insurance company. I'm a little bit confused by this one. Martha wrote that. Is your business willing to work with customers who want to pay out of pocket for bracing that is ordered directly? See, the toughest part about that is if you order something through Amazon or eBay and you come in here and you say, can you put this on? As soon as I start touching it and modifying that brace, I assume all the liability. And you're not going to find orthotists that are willing to do that. That's a very, very tricky proposition. I have had people come in, and I'll be honest with you. I'll say, this is what you need. You don't have any insurance, this is the size. This is everything. If I have a brace here, I'll show them how to put it on. I'll show them how to use it. I take it off, put mine back in the box, and then they go ahead and order it. I've only done that once or twice, and I kind of cringe deep down inside, because if there's ever a problem, there's not going to be a whole lot of people out there that are willing to put their neck out on the line like that. You got to remember, when you are paying your co-pays, you are paying for our expertise. If there is an adjustment that needs to be made, if there's a warranty claim, if there's a problem, if the doctor's not happy with something, we get paid for all of those adjustments right up front. So that's what the copay is for. So I wish I could be a little bit more helpful with that one. But I've actually had to turn away people that say, I have this brace, I got it on Amazon, or I bought it at the local drugstore. It's really a liability issue. The next question is how to manage the balance between minimizing pain and maximizing joint support against weaker muscles. That's Ernie wrote that. Oh boy. That's a very generalized one. Ernie, if you wrote up a wish list, as I was saying, and that would really help. I don't know if you're talking about the back, your legs, your ankles, wrist. I don't know what your pain is. We always try to minimize the pain, and by knowing your wish list, knowing what is needed, we would be able to better come up with that. But that general question is a bit too general to answer accurately. If you'd like, you can ask again and make it a little bit more clearer. The next one, are there options in ring splints that are adjustable? We find the loss of splints frequent due to multiple swellings and etc. Now, there's really no ring splints that are adjustable. The silver ring splints, no. If you lose something, they actually make plastic ring splints. They are not nearly the same quality. I cannot attest to how well that they work. Your local hand clinic or hand doctor may be able to find them for you, and if that's the case, because they are so inexpensive, you may find that a size 1 may work on a good day when everything is small, and then you swell up a little bit, and a 1.5 may be better, or however their sizing goes. And because they are made out of plastic instead of like a silver ring splint that could cost a considerable amount of money, these would be much less expensive, so you'd be able to buy a lot of different sizes for the same amount of money, just make up for it in volume. The plastic braces, though, are not as durable as the silver, and they look plastic. They call it a flesh color. It's kind of an orangey looking plastic. But if you went in for ring splints, if you did a Google search on ring splints or plastic ring splints, you'd see exactly what I'm talking about. And I don't believe your insurance would pay for those. I don't know how you would determine the sizing, but that may be something that you could do from Amazon. That would be the lesser of the two evils. Are there devices for aiding in body position for standing or semi-seated stance, such as a podium or at an artist stance on their recommended chairs or strap type lifts that Todd has written in. Yes, there are the devices. I've made splints over the years for people that were paralyzed from the chest down that would allow them to stand and walk. It all depends on where your weakness is. If it's something in the back, we can go with a simple, maybe a prefabricated TLSO, or if your knees want to buckle, instead of going with a knee brace, we could go with a possibly a off-the-shelf carbon fiber anterior brace made by Allard, which would kind of allow you, if you went up to a chair that was up against the wall and kind of rested your knees against it, then we'd be able to, if you rested your knees against it, you would see how something like that would work. But that, it could, that would help. If you had to do a lot of standing and sitting, and you had problems with becoming fatigued or having to exert an awful lot of power going up, they actually make portable cushions. I know AliMed has them, and what you do is you put your body weight, there's a dial or a lever in the back. So let's say you weigh 180 pounds. You move that dial to 180 pounds, and it would, I believe it lifts 70 to 80% of your body weight for you, so that way you're not pushing on your shoulders, legs, and back so much, and it'll get you almost to a three-quarter standing position. And they're portable. They have a simple little shoulder strap, and somebody should be able to carry that for you. I hope that helped. Lisa writes, how often should foot orthotics be replaced or refit? Just like anything, I recommend that you should come in every 6 months to a year and just look at them. If they still feel comfortable, obviously they're probably still good. A lot of times people think to replace their orthotics, and it's not the orthotics, it's the shoes. And a lot of times people will wait, especially with a pair of foot orthotics, until they're completely worn out to get a new pair. I always recommend, while the original pair is still in decent shape, to go ahead and have a second pair, so that way you do not have to get to the point of, when you realize that something is not right with one, you can put the other one in. If the problem resolves itself, go right ahead and throw out the old ones. If the problem hasn't resolved itself, maybe it's the shoes, or maybe something else is going on with your foot, and you should see your doctor or your therapist. But I would have them checked every 6 months. Pam writes, what type of brace can be used in water therapy? I have problems currently with both wrists and one knee instability. Anything that's made out of neoprene, pool therapy, you can use anything. Anything that's machine washable. The Velcro will not go bad. The worst thing that may happen is if it has eyelets or buckles, they may get rusty over time. If you may just want to, when you're done in the pool, rinse them out with tap water, clean tap water. As far as the knee goes, you can use anything that has neoprene. Neoprene, they make wetsuits out of it, or any other type of knee brace, as long as it has, can be machine washed. If it's a knee brace that does not have hinges in it and you want to dry it, do not wring any brace. Do not wring it out like a towel. What you do is you rinse it in clear water until you've gotten all the chlorine or salt water out. You shake it out gently. Then you lay it flat onto a towel. Then you roll the towel up and then unroll it. And then you can hang it to dry it. And that usually does the best job. Okay. Miranda writes, I'm working with my doctor to get EDS testing, and the next step will be braces and physical therapy. But until then, are there any recommendations to help with hand-finger pain from typing? I'd go right back to the ring splints. The ring splints will help with the hand-finger pain from the typing. There was a gentleman when I went to the conference here in Providence who had splints on every finger. He played the piano. He was absolutely incredible. My hands hurt watching him play, and he, with his splints on, he said he could do it all day, every day. So this is that would be my easiest recommendation. And once again, you may want to try something with the plastic ones just to see if they are going to work. The only other thing, I've had folks come in and they say they have to use the voice recognition software if it's typing on a keyboard. I know I have a bit of a accent. It's actually a bit of a speech impediment. And when I try to use it, I get some creative words that come up. So good luck with that. So I hope that helped. Melanie writes, I have hypermobile thumbs and wrists. I've been fitted for a thumb spiker with wrist support. I'm finding it very inconvenient to use in daily life. I have to take it off when washing my hands or doing dishes. Are there products available that are comfortable yet waterproof? I just got fitted for an MCP silver ring splint, which will help for some activities, but my wrist is still a problem. Yes, Melanie. Actually, there's a device by Restorative Care of America, and it's called the Universal Wrist Thumb Support, and it's made out of neoprene. It's a kind of flexible. It's very low profile, and it actually has a removable stay. So you can kind of, if you don't want all the support of a thumb spiker, you can remove that stay, and that will allow some compression and to help hold that thumb in a better place. Also, if that's fit by an orthotist, there's no reason at all why he shouldn't be able to trim that stay to give you a little bit more thumb mobility, but yet support the wrist. But that is the Restorative Care of America, RCAI, and it's called the Universal Wrist Thumb Support. Lisa writes, what physician specialty would refer an EDS patient to an orthotist? Well, Dr. Chopra is an anesthesiologist. It's whichever doctor would be willing to take the time and work with EDS patients. Physiatrists also would probably be a little bit more knowledgeable. Usually a doctor that specializes in pain management, such as Dr. Chopra. The physiatrists are very knowledgeable in multiple of disciplines, so it's a very difficult one. Like I said, I'm kind of lucky here in Rhode Island. I do all my work with Dr. Chopra and Kevin, so. Do you have a next one is Pam writes, do you have a recommendation for any type of bracing for a winging scapula? Oh boy. That's a tough one to answer, Pam, without seeing you. If I actually put my hand on it and we could prevent it from winging, then I would find a brace that would do the same thing that my hand did. I don't have a recommendation right off the top of my head as far as this type of brace. For something similar to that, what I have done before in the past is, once again, if you look at that Auger clavicle splint, there's a pad in the back that holds the straps in place, and it's a fairly large felt rectangular pad, and that may help with the to help hold that in from winging around. I've also had to get creative with certain types of off-the-shelf TLSOs. So that's something that a little bit of trial and error may be needed. You could take a ace bandage and wrap your shoulders in a figure 8 with the middle of the 8 being right on your spine, going underneath your axilla and up over the other side. Back and forth, you'd almost look like the sign for infinity. But that's going to be a trial and error one. Okay, we have a bit of a long one here. This is K. I was given by my podiatrist ankle braces made by ProCare that lace up and have wide elastic bands that go across the front of my foot, wrap underneath my arch, and come up and attach to the other side of my foot via Velcro. The medical assistant who fitted me with the braces said the small was too small and the medium fits my foot. Unfortunately, my foot size is 8.5, 9, AAA to quad A, so there's a lot of fabric that bunches up and rubs on my skin. I was told to wear 2 pairs of socks to fit each brace, but this doesn't take up the slack. I tried to take it back to my podiatrist, but he won't take it back. On top of all this, my insurance denied my claim. What do you suggest I do to fit the brace, or what should I say to my doctor or insurance company to take back the braces and fit me with ones that fit and won't put undue pressure on my ankles, heels, calves, and shins? I have fallen arches and Achilles tendonitis, which with swelled ankles and Achilles tendons, and my doctor says it's medically necessary to have ankle braces. Okay, well, okay. This is a very common type of off-the-shelf ankle brace. It's a figure 8 style brace. Both straps wrap around on either side. A lot of times you cannot go by the sizing of the box to the foot. What you have to do is actually put the brace on and see how the laces go. The laces on any brace are supposed to run parallel to each other for a perfect fit. It sounds like if you have to wear 2 socks and there's still a lot of fabric, the brace is either too long or it's too much and the laces are buttoned up against each other. I don't know what you should say to your doctor. What I would do is call the insurance company and tell them that this does not fit correctly, that you don't like them, that you've tried to take them back, and the doctor has refused, and see what they do. They will usually have guidelines of what to do. Some insurance companies have different procedures. But if you have fallen arches, those braces will not do anything for that. The Achilles tendonitis, you usually want to restrict the motion of the Achilles tendon, which means you want to reduce the dorsiflexion of your foot. You do not want to raise your foot up, lift your toes up as far, because it puts an unnecessary stretch on the Achilles tendon. And I do agree that with the Achilles tendonitis and the fallen arches that you do have probably a medical necessity for ankle braces, but those 2 separate diagnoses right there would probably indicate you would probably need a custom-made AFO, whether it be an Arizona AFO, which is a product name. You can look them up, Arizona AFO, or just a custom hinged AFO that had a stop, much like the one I showed. Catherine writes, are you a CPED, like your company name leads me to believe? No, I'm not. I'm a certified orthotist and prosthetist. The difference between a CPED and myself is I've been trained in bracing from the top of the head all the way down. The CPEDs usually control concentrate rather on the from below the knee. The name of the company, Pedorthic Technology, is when it comes to the pedals, the extremities, it's more of a reference to the extremities. It does confuse a lot of people. Deanna writes, I have a lot of pain and shoulder subluxation downward due to the weight of my arms. I get some relief by using microbead pillows under my elbows when sitting or driving. Is there a shoulder brace that might provide similar support but allow mobility? And am I weakening muscles by doing this? No, if you're sitting, you're not really weakening any muscles by sitting there while you're driving. Everything is kind of hanging anyway. A brace to help hold that up it's a difficult one, especially one that allows mobility. Depends on how bad your shoulder is. There's a semi-custom made brace called a Wheaton arm brace, and it actually creates a little cradle that your arm goes in, but there's a button that you can push that allows you to use your arm and extend it. It comes with or without a hand piece, and it has to be custom fit to the individuals. A lot of times the pillows are the easiest way to deal with this, unless the Omo Train or any of the braces along those lines would work out very well. But that's tough. If you can use the pillows and get away with that, that may be the easiest instead of having to wear a brace. Okay. My pointing fingers are starting to twist in towards the other fingers. They're not straight like the rest. Do ring splints help straighten them again, or are ring splints used more for support and preventing this? Shona wrote that. The pointing finger going in. I don't think the ring splints have something like that, but you actually can get a deviation splint. It can be made and would go onto that finger, and it would have a strap that would run around the palm of the hand and over the back of the hand. So if you actually took like a popsicle stick and you put it on your finger and you put that finger in there, you can see how the popsicle stick would create a gap. If you could imagine a rubber band around that popsicle stick, if it was somehow attached to the finger, it would pull that finger out. You'd almost be treating that finger like you had a rheumatoid arthritis with that type of deviation. That's something that somebody would have to get creative with. And, looking through the Silver Ring Splint catalog, I do not think that they make something like that, but that's not a whole lot different than what they would have from their MCP thumb, where they actually have a chain that would go around to help hold the thumb in place. So that may be something that you should ask give them a call for. They may be able to do something to help you out there. Lindsay writes, I think I would really benefit from ring splints. However, I have a job where I would not be permitted to wear ring splints. Is this something that has to be worn all day, every day, in order to be effective? It really depends on what your job is, Lindsay. The short answer is no. No brace has to be worn all day, every day. Will it be more effective the more that you can wear it? Yes. If your fingers are not bothering you while you're at work, then I wouldn't worry about the ring splints. If your fingers start to bother you at work, and then after you get home from work, they're in really bad shape, then a ring splint may be beneficial, because if you kind of abuse your fingers all day long at work, and then when you come home and you can put them on, it's kind of like putting on your comfy slippers when you come home. That may be the best of both worlds. It's probably a lot easier to do that than to try to find another job. So they do not have to be worn all day. Obviously, if you could, that would be great. You could also, I don't know what your job is, if it's just that they don't allow jewelry because of machinery, or if they just don't allow jewelry for aesthetic reasons, you may be able to speak to a supervisor and ask if you had proper documentation from a doctor, and instead of wearing ring splints on all your fingers, if you just wore them on the fingers that were the most problematic, that may be a big help also. Catherine writes, do you fit braces for scoliosis in an adult? Yes. A lot of times, though, they're not corrective because you're done growing. A lot of times when you are fitting a scoliosis patient, they're in their adolescent, preteen years or early teens, and they're still doing some growing, kind of like a bonsai tree. You can kind of shape the spine, take some of the rotation if there's any rotation in it out. But when somebody gets to a certain point, if the scoliosis is painful and uncomfortable, we've done that before, where we've had to make a custom TLSO to help support the trunk and incorporate for the scoliosis. So yes, the short answer is yes. Deanna writes, my PT recommended I wear a soft cervical collar in the car for pain reduction and protection. I also wear it for flare-ups and etc. Is this appropriate? Are there any creative options beside a hard brace, such as the Aspen or the Miami J? Does cervical bracing of this type weaken muscles? Where to start on this one? A lot of folks do wear some sort of cervical collar while in the car for pain reduction and protection. Is it appropriate? Yes. Very last thing you want is to have a whiplash. Your body, whiplash is when your head has been overextended anyway, and that's on somebody that does not have hypermobility. Are there any creative options besides a hard brace? Well, it's really kind of difficult to think about. I've had some people that you don't want somebody to see them wearing a collar while they're driving. They're afraid that if there's an accident that they're going to be blamed. So sometimes they use those moldable neck pillows that you can get in the airport. They're shaped like a horseshoe, and you can kind of put them around your neck and you can shape them. So that way they'll do the same thing, but they don't have that Velcro going all the way around you. So that would be probably the best option, once again, without seeing you and without knowing why you'd like to have a different option or what other issues are going on, whether it's pushing on a clavicle and causing that to have some pain, or if it's pushing on your sternum and having some pain. Believe it or not, I've actually had to take apart some soft cervical collars with adjustments to those. So.
Well, I think we made it through those questions, and we really appreciate your patience. We had almost 30 questions, Eric, and we appreciate your presentation. A lot of good information, got a lot of good comments from people, and they appreciate the detail that you got into as we talked about this topic.
Yeah,
well,
thank you so much. We really learned a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, and this was fun. after we get the computer issues straightened out.
Great, great. Well, we are going to be winding up this evening, and I just want to remind people that the recording will be posted on our site tomorrow. If you want to get on the emails so that you can be notified about these sessions, request a free report on our site. The next presentation will be July 2nd. So assuming that you're on the email list, you will get notified a few days before that so that you can call in. So again, appreciate people hanging in there with us, and we look forward to having you join us in the next session on July 2nd. So everyone have a great evening, and we're going to conclude our session tonight. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.